Put a finger down if you got a random call one night from one of your friends. Of course, you miss it. So, you call them next morning and no answer. Then, you shoot them a text, no response. So you call them the following day and still no answer. So you're like, maybe, it was an accident or whatever. Let me just give them some time. And then, you wait a week, call that number again. Still no answer. So now you're not thinking too much of it because, you guys don't talk that often. So it's not crazy that, they're not answering. But it's like, I called you 3 times. You should have responded by now, right? So you give it some time. Maybe you're just letting things cool off. I don't know. I don't remember. Life was busy, so I was just doing things, right? Month or 2 goes by, give it a call, no answer. So now I'm worried. I don't think I'm telling the story how you're supposed to, but whatever. I'm worried. It happened to me. So now you're looking all over social media. You're checking Instagram. You're checking Apple Music. You're just checking everything just to see if this person's active or not. Like, what's going on? So now you're actually like really, really worried because there's no activity. They're not answering your phone calls. So you don't know what the hell is going on. So what you do is you go and you find 2 like mutuals that you know about. They're not your friends, but they're his friends that you know about. And you DM them and you ask them what's going on. Mind you, both of them don't answer. So now you're hitting up a friend of yours to hit up that person that they're friends with because they're mutuals. All these mutuals, right? Okay, so let's say we hit up J and K. And, we can't reach J and K. So we ask a friend that's a mutual with J. Let's call her T. So now you ask T to hit up J so that J can, see your message because they probably have like a setting where they don't see these DMs. So now J finally responds back to you and says, hey, ... is fine. Because I'm thinking something happened, like something happened to the person, But Jay is like, ... is fine. The next time I speak to him, I will let him know that you're asking about him and for him to hit you up. I'm like, okay, cool. A week goes by. I'm still not hearing anything, but I'm trying to be patient. Like I said, life is going on. I got a lot going on. So I'm just worried about that too, right? So Jay hits me up and it's like, hey, so I spoke to ... Let's call him B. I spoke to B, and so B is in prison. B is in prison, and that's the reason why he hasn't been able to answer your phone calls. But he did ask me for your phone number, if you're okay with that, so that he could call you. I said, of course, yes. Give him my phone number. I still have not, I still don't know what's going on because B is the last person you would even, that wasn't even a thought in my brain. So now I'm being patient. I'm waiting for the call. Like 2 days later, I think, or maybe it was next day, I get a call from prison and it's him. He's like, hey, oh no, actually, I forgot. So after she tells me that he's in prison, I immediately go and I search up his name. Oh my gosh, you would not believe what I found. I find him and like one K, the other person that I also DM'd, K, are all in prison. Every single last one of them are in prison. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm reading through it. They're in prison for murder and robbery. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Oh God. So mind you, there's a backstory to K and how I feel about him, but we could talk about that one later. But yeah, murder, robbery, kidnapping, the whole 9, bro. So I'm just like, there's no way. I call my friends, I'm confused as hell. Like, how is this going on? Like, what is happening? What? It's, to this day, it still doesn't make sense. So anyways, like I said, he calls me and I'm being so calm, but I'm like, what is going on? How can this happen? And he's literally just telling me like he can't tell me he can't tell me too much over that phone or over the phone, but we'll talk about it later. I don't know. I feel like this is getting long, so I don't know. It's getting long. Let me know if y'all want a part 2, but it gets crazy. It gets real crazy. Okay, so y'all want part 2. I heard y'all feedbacks, but I'm so sorry. The pauses need to happen because I have to get my thoughts together. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day, and I'm sure nobody wants that. I'll give like a quick rundown of our history, and then we'll get into what actually happened. So B and I work together. He's a producer, and I write music. So we would just be in the studio all the time, making music, having a good time. So around the time that we were going to the studio, he was hanging out with Kay more. Kay also was a producer, and he was making a name for himself. So B was trying to get into that, groove and make some money. Kay and B's best friend got into it. It was like this whole thing. B would talk to me about it, and I would literally just be like, I don't know, that's your best friend. I would, choose your best friend, because his best friend was basically kind of making him choose between them. My light kept dying. I'm over it. I'm just going to finish it here. So ultimately, B chose Kay because that's where the money was at. No judgment. It was what it was, right? Okay, so now let's just go ahead and get into what was stated in the article. So they were basically saying that K, B, and one other person left their state. They're in one state, and they go to a whole nother state to pick up weed and drugs from these 2 drug dealers. K and his Cody were in one car, and B was in a car by himself. Okay, so they all drive and they cross multiple state lines, mind you, okay? Once they get to their destination, they're stating that K and his Cody went inside of a stash house to try to pick up, the drugs from the drug dealers. Once they get there, they end up bringing out a pew-pew and, basically demanding for the drug dealers to take them to another stash house so that they could pick up some more drugs. Basically just being greedy at this point. Mind you, where they were at, they already had 30 pounds of marijuana, it said. B was in his own vehicle waiting for them to bring out the drugs so that they could put it in. Instead of actually just bringing out the drugs, they actually bring out the 2 drug dealers too, and they tie them up in the back of the truck. Now they're fighting, like the drug dealer and one of the Codys. They're fighting in the back of the truck, and I think something goes down, and he just like pews him multiple times. So the dealer passes away, and they panic. So they leave the other, mind you, there was 2 dealers. They leave the other dealer in the back of the truck and just tell him not to say anything, which makes no sense. Oh my God, I did not realize how long this was getting. I'm about to do the 3rd part. Sorry, my hair was looking crazy. But anyway, so they tell him not to say anything, and like they all kind of just dip. But like I said, B was in a car on his own, so he actually just like drove off once he heard like pew pew. Now, they drive back, again, crossing multiple state lines, drive back home, and kind of are just, I guess, waiting to see what happens, right? Of course, the feds are taking their sweet time, doing their investigation and things like that. So mind y'all, I told you he had called me on a specific, let's say he called January 1st, and I called him back January 2nd. So actually, he was picked up January 1st, like that night. So he called me like hours before he got picked up, which is the reason why when I was calling him and trying to get to him, I couldn't reach him because they already took his phone. So they probably saw me calling like, what the hell? Why is this girl calling? But yeah, just to speak on his character though, like B is, like I said, the last person I would have ever thought would be in this sort of situation. I genuinely don't think that he knew what was going to happen or what was going to go down. Like, I don't even think he knew about the drugs, but that's just my opinion. Of course, it's still going down. Currently, this is a very recent thing. So once trial comes, I'll go ahead and keep y'all updated and let y'all know what is going on. But I do speak to him almost every day. I told him that I was doing this story time and he was okay with me telling the story. So yeah, but this isn't even like the craziest thing that has happened to me. Maybe tomorrow I'll tell y'all how I accidentally became the villain in a 6-year relationship that resulted in ambushes, restraining orders, highway chases. Like, yeah, that one's crazy. Look, my eyes are so red. I got my lashes done today and I'm struggling.